This is the process shot. I'm Michael. I'm stuck in a haunted movie theater, and I've seen Invaders from Mars, a science fiction thriller from 1953 directed by William Cameron Menzies. It begins with a young boy named David, whose astronomical interests lead him to witnessing a flying saucer landing behind his house one night. His father goes to investigate, but after a lengthy disappearance, he returns with a much colder personality than normal. David soon begins to notice this sort of change among others in his town, and when he connects it to the saucer's landing, he begins to think that this was the work of alien invaders. With the help of a sympathetic doctor and a local scientist, the army is put into motion to prepare for battle against these Martians, but what they encounter may be well beyond anything they can comprehend. And yes, things do in fact escalate that quickly. I mean, it isn't that sudden. The first half of the movie is pretty much just setting things up, and it actually makes for some decent drama as David rushes across town trying to find anybody who will believe his story, much less anyone who hasn't been changed by the aliens. It's somewhat redundant, but it does help further create a sense of mystery as to why exactly they're invading this specific town, and what their intentions are with the havoc they're creating. It actually feels like a relief when somebody finally starts taking him seriously, though it's also at this point that things start to get a bit silly when the army is put into action. The story as a whole isn't exactly meant to be taken seriously, though, at least from what I figure. It's a bit more escapist than that, taking a group of unassuming people and placing them in over their heads, face to face with a world unlike anything ever before seen, and yet going into the thick of it with a sense of bravery, investigation, and confidence. Also the army. Anyways, I will note that because of this adventure genre approach, it doesn't leave too much time for any greater character development outside of superficial aspects, leaving everybody more attuned to their roles within the story and how they work with each other. Writing aside, there's a nice amount of time spent on technical detail, with a rather distinct visual style across the board. Set design is a bit mixed, with some striking imagery in a few important areas, but keeping things a bit more bland elsewhere. It's especially when aliens are involved that the set pieces become truly imaginative, which makes sense because, well, they're aliens. The colors of the film are very expressive, with an emphasis on greens and blues when otherworldly elements are involved, contrasted with brighter and whiter colors that separate the human world from them. This theme of the alien world being more stylized comes into play across almost the entire film, especially in cinematography. The camera usually stays flat when on Earth, even in more hectic sequences, but it takes up wildly different angles and positions when looking at extraterrestrial matters. If there is anything that detracts from the overall experience, though, it's in the editing, which sees quite a good amount of repeated footage, with a few clips sometimes showing up again within minutes of itself first appearing. While the movie does present a sort of reason for this, it's a bit of a stretch and almost makes the ending seem like a cop-out. Whatever the case, I will say that it doesn't take away from the rest of the enjoyment found within the movie. Overall, it's a very imaginative film, even if it is a bit more focused on human fears and reaction, and less on the actual science fiction. It's still got plenty of that, though, and what we get from it is still pretty great. Invaders from Mars. William Cameron Menzies, 1953. 3.5 stars. I'd say to give it a watch. It's a Saturday morning kind of movie. That's it for this review. If you liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. I'm probably overanalyzing something that I already said was made more for the fun of it all. I gotta have something to say about the movie, or else I wouldn't have a video. Then again, I do need to get started on those YouTube shorts.